Hello and welcome to a new series that I'll be starting. I'm going to be looking at every NBA Finals series from the year 2000 to the year 2022. What I'm going to be doing is ranking each individual game in terms of entertainment. What games do you really want to watch in this series? Because there's some series where, some teams get blown out a bit. And not every game you actually really want to watch. So if you want to go back and watch some of these games, this is going to be a perfect series for the people that didn't get to watch the finals in the year 2000. I know I only started watching in 2009, so the first couple of series, especially being in Australia, we didn't get all that much unless you had pay TV, unless you had cable, essentially. So without any further ado, let's start off with the Lakers Pacers series in the year 2000. So, what I might do is actually bring up the rosters for the teams. So these are the two rosters. If you're just so you know who you're gonna expect to see in this series, and just some of the names that you might want to go watch. So you got. Actually, I'm just gonna bring up the names that are kind of important into the series. I'm gonna go over the starters. So in game one, we had, for the Pacers, we had Smits, Miller, Rose, Mark Jackson, and Dale Davis. They were the starters for the team. So the ones you really had coming off the bench in this series was, so you had Sam Perkins, Travis Best, Austin Croshaw. That must have been when he was real young, because I don't remember Al Harrington. Derek McKee came on a couple times. Chris Mullins here and there. But they really, I felt like they ran like a 8-9 man rotation, because as you'll see with the Lakers, you had quite a bit that they had to stop. The starters in game one for the Los Angeles Lakers were Kobe, AC Green, Ron Harper, Shaquille O'Neal, and Glenn Rice. Now, the starters will change throughout the series because of certain things that will happen, but as you can see, the Lakers have a bit more firepower. They have prime Shaq just coming off his MVP season. You got a young Kobe, third year in the league, and a little bit of veteranship. One player I didn't know AC Green was still playing in the year 2000. I remember him playing with Magic, so that's kind of a weird thing, seeing him there. But yeah, so go back to the series. Game one, here's some of the things I've just watched these series. Because I've watched every single series or every game. I'm gonna go over each one. I'm gonna give a little rundown for each game as well. So for the first game, it was a bit of a blowout. So it's not the most entertaining game, but you had Shaq scoring a bunch. He just couldn't be guarded, and unfortunately for this series, that's going to be a common theme, is Shaq not being able to be guarded. And well, we all know who Shaq is. It's not the first time that he's been an unfair matchup for the opponent, but there's teams that have beaten him before. So we got Smits just getting destroyed. He's taking shots, but he is not scoring early on. Kobe was playing awesome defensively. He was playing full court defense against Mark Jackson. I'm surprised they didn't have him on Reggie Miller, but you know what? It worked out at the end of this first game. One weird thing that, going back and watching old games, is 3-point shot isn't as prevalent as it is now. They'd only taken as a team. It was with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. As both teams combined, there was only 8 threes taken. We see that sometimes per team in a quarter these days. So that's one thing. Like, if you go back and watch past games, you're not going to see the 3-point shot as much as you do now. So game one, it's barely watchable because of the blowout. I don't think it was that entertaining. Once again, if you want to watch Shaq dominate, you can do that in a game where it's actually close. Personally, I enjoy games that are a bit closer. Game two, was actually, the first quarter was good. Reggie Miller outscored himself in game 2 compared to game 1, just in the first quarter. So he scored more in the first quarter than he did the whole game 1. Lakers were playing super fast, and I enjoy that. I think it's entertaining watching. Not always, some set plays, but a lot of pushing the ball, a lot of pace. Smits gets early foul trouble. It makes it, you're kind of watching similar to what happened in game 1, where Shaq's just scoring at will. If you want to see Shaq play one-on-one, this is another good game to watch. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of a turn that makes the series a bit worse, and that's Kobe getting injured in the second quarter. He lands on Jalen Rose's foot on a jump shot, similar to Kawhi landing on Zaza Pachulia's foot. Not as bad as Kawhi's injury, but kept him out for a couple games. The reporter did say they were going to try and tape him up and get him back, but didn't end up happening. Crochet had a really good game. He played a good game 1, and game 2 was even better. But we don't, if you're watching the games for Crochet, then watch this one. Once Kobe got injured, the Lakers weren't playing so great, and they were barely losing at halftime. Might not have been. The Lakers were just playing bad in general, and they were barely losing. Glenn Rice is shooting well, so that makes the game a little more entertaining. Jalen Rose having an amazing fourth quarter. Pacers giving up bad fouls in the fourth quarter. This one's a little more watchable because the game's close. Kobe goes out, so it's not the best. I'm gonna give that a mid-tier watchable. Okay, so we've got game 3. No Kobe. Shaq has a terrible first quarter. Lakers aren't scoring. Lakers go down massive in the first half. This is another game where, blowouts aren't as entertaining because for the winning team, you don't always have the stars on. And for the losing team, they're really trying to make the comeback with the bench, not trying to force too much with the starters. And you'll see why Hacker Shaq was a thing, because in game 3, you've got Shaq finishing with a good game. But if he finished a little bit better from the free throw line, this game could have been a bit better. This is another one that's barely watchable. Game 4, Kobe's back. Shaq is also playing good again. That could be a part of having Kobe on the floor. Who knows? Smits was playing good really early to begin with, hitting shots, but foul trouble. And it kind of looks like Reggie Miller and Jalen Rose are going to have to carry this game. Unfortunately, he's not injured, but Kobe gets into early foul trouble. He gets his 4th foul in the first half, and it forces him off the court. Even though Jalen Rose and Reggie Miller had to carry this team, they weren't shooting well. There is one little funny bit about this is there's someone in the crowd. This is at the Pacers. This is a Pacers home game. There's somebody in the crowd that you can hear in the recording complaining about Shaq not guarding anyone in the paint, trying to call for defensive 3 seconds. So it's not anything that makes the game more enjoyable, but it's a little bit of not an Easter egg, but something funny that happens during the game. So Shaq actually shoots a decent free throw percentage in this game, which, as you'll find out, as I found out, it pretty much gives them a win. If he was shooting like he normally would, they wouldn't have won this game. Kobe scores pretty well in the comeback game from his injury. It was only one. Pretty much he missed the game he got injured and the next game, but he managed to come back in game 4. Sam Perkins ties it with a 3 that sends it into overtime, real close to the end of the game. Kobe gets a big tip in, which pretty much leads him to the victory, and he takes over overtime. If you want to see a classic, and this is a young Kobe as well, if you want to see a classic Kobe taking over in overtime, a fourth quarter, this is probably the earliest you'll get in terms of Kobe's career. This is probably the earliest you'll get in terms of Kobe's career. And Reggie Miller misses a 3 to tie the game, but in saying that, it wasn't an easy shot. It was contested. It was fading away. So this one, I think I'm going to put this in the good. Now, game 5. Smits is having a decent first game again, but we all know how that goes. Reggie Miller has been shooting well. He actually shoots really well at the start of this. If you're a Reggie Miller fan, this might be. And we know, with Smits playing well, he is also fouling early. It seems like the whole series, up until now, and even game 6, is just... And this was one of the games where it's... You look at it and you're like, Shaq's a problem. He's getting lots of offensive rebounds, and they all lead to dunks because nobody on that team, for a guy that's 7'4", I think Smits is 7'3", 7'4". For a guy that's that tall, he isn't really doing much rebounding or defending really. The Pacers get off to an amazing first quarter. They go 15 for 20 and they go 6 for 6 from the 3-point line. Kobe is getting outplayed by Jalen Rose pretty hard. Lakers, this whole game, they were just taking bad shots. And then it just seemed like they're up by so much. It just seems like everybody on the Pacers is scoring. I think this is the game Dale Davis makes a couple of jump shots from outside the key. And also, we'll bring it back to it. This is the game. So they're up so much. Chris Mullin comes off the bench. He's old at this point. He's in his 14th season. I didn't know he was on the team until he came on the court, because I don't think he had any minutes before that. Not that I noticed him anyway. I just didn't know he was on the team. And Kobe has a pretty bad game. He only finishes with 8. This is another one where, unless you're a fan of Reggie Miller, this one's barely watchable. This series, this is the first series that I've watched complete from start to finish. And this is the first one that I kind of feel let down by, because it was boring. Like, that, it wasn't the biggest. Don't get me wrong, game 4 was really fun to watch, but game 5, game 3, and game 5 and game 1 especially, they're kind of boring. Okay, let's get on to the last game. Okay, game 6 is good. The downside is NBA has taken it, whatever it's from, or whatever NBA the League Pass, whatever League Pass has decided to take it from, in the bottom left corner of the whole game, it says the Lakers win the NBA championship, and it says Lakers up 3-1, or Lakers win 4-2 or something like that. And it's there the whole game, and it's sitting in the corner, and it's annoying. I don't know if it's because of what they took it from, but the quality of this game is real bad, and visually, it's like in worse than 480p. I don't know what it's in, but it just seemed, it was unenjoyable visually to watch. Like, I so wish this game was a little bit better quality, because this was a real fun game to watch. There's a couple of points that I, especially because it's game 6, I wrote down, and I'm like, kind of summing up the whole series. I don't know what happened to Crochet, but he seems like a decent player off the bench, and I hadn't heard of him before. I heard of him because of my team in NBA 2K, but I hadn't heard of him as a player. And I looked it up, and I think he had one more good season coming off the bench. Then he really didn't do much. Hung around in the NBA for 8 seasons. 8 seasons after this, unfortunately. But he seemed like a really good player coming off, a real good energy guy coming off the bench in this series. So that's kind of And they talk about how Jalen Rose won the most improved player that season. Quite a bit, actually. And you can tell from this series why he won it. I don't know how he was playing before this, but he's playing pretty good. So getting on to the actual game, Glenn Rice is making shots. And the thing is, when Kobe and Shaq are on the court, you've got the best defenders on those two. So Glenn Rice has an easier time. He's not scoring on the best defenders, but he's getting his shots and he's scoring, which is what the Lakers needed. They needed somebody else to score when those two are on the court because they've got an easier time. There's an interesting stat that comes up. Kobe takes his first free throw in 112 minutes of game time. So the last free throws he took, I think it was in game 1. Game 2 he gets injured. Game 4 he comes back 5. And he doesn't get free throws in those 2 games. So that's a little interesting. That's not that interesting, but it's just a little note that the commentators were talking about how he hadn't shot a free throw since game 1. And I'm surprised I didn't notice this throughout the whole series. But Mark Jackson just posts up from half court. Like, I know he's a bit of a bigger point guard, but it's weird seeing guys post up from half court. And yeah, once again, Glenn Rice. Later into the game, he's scoring good and he's shooting a good percentage. And the Lakers in the third quarter, there's a massive momentum swing towards them. So, you kind of know if it wasn't shoved in your face the whole game, you kind of know the Lakers are probably going to take this. And unfortunately, you don't really get it too much from the games I watch nowadays, but there's a lot of bias against Reggie Miller from the commentators. They're talking about him flailing around. Now, he definitely does it sometimes, where he'll take a jump shot, he'll fling his legs out. But there was one where it was a clear foul, and the commentators are saying he's flailing. They go back at the replay, and he's just shooting a normal jump shot, and he gets pushed from the side, and they say he's flailing. I don't know. I don't like it, especially if there's not. Fair enough, he does it here and there. But the commentating was a bit biased, so I wasn't a massive fan of that, especially in Game 6. And now, going into the fourth quarter, the game's close. And pretty much it's close until the last minute or so. But unfortunately, the one player that I thought had been playing decent for Indiana pretty much every game, Austin Crochet, he makes some bad decisions going down the stretch. He takes a fadeaway jump shot I think it was on Ron Harper. He misses. Yeah, then he fouls Kobe and he costs him the game and pretty much a series. This game 6 though. Now, ranking it, my problem was I think it would be good. It would be a good game, but the problem with the quality of the video makes it watchable. If the quality of the game visually was better, they would be good, close to excellent. But because it's so blurry and so it just doesn't. It's just not good quality. That's pretty much all I can say. Because of that, I think it just goes unwatchable. It's nearly barely. If the game wasn't so entertaining, it'd probably be barely watchable. If it was a blowout, it would be not watchable. But that's been the first series. Now, at the end of all this, I will do a total recap of every series and ranking the individual series against each other. And the next series that I'm going on to is the Lakers versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this one will be, I think, a bit more fun for me. Well, I think this one will be a bit more entertaining because you've got Allen Iverson on one team and Kobe on the other. Most people already know the results or what's going to happen in terms of the score, but I'm sure there'll be a couple entertaining games. Let me know what you think in terms of this series. If you enjoyed a young Kobe and Shaq winning Kobe winning his first championship. I think that was Shaq's first championship as well. Shaq getting MVP and championship. Now, one thing that I will say in general that I kind of learned from this series is that Shaq wasn't that bad around the rim. He was hitting so many jump hooks from kind of somewhere outside of the paint. But thinking back, I haven't really watched much of Shaq, but when I first started watching, he was in Phoenix and then he gets traded to Cleveland. You pretty much, I only knew of him as getting in the post and trying to dunk. I didn't know of him as being that good athletically, I knew he was good athletically. But I didn't know he could get his shot off like that. Anyways, that's been Dunkmatic, and I gotta bounce.